Hi everybody, welcome to PhysioMIMI. Today we're going to talk about installing PhysioMIMI. In this video we're going to show you how to go from zero to finished. We're going to do everything you need to do to get PhysioMIMI up and running, and we're going to do it in real time. So as you know, the most important thing is the PhysioMIMI website. It's over here in this tab. I have it opened. I've made it a little bit small so that we can see everything that we need to see. The important thing is that if you ever need any information, look here on the Resources tab. You'll find whatever info you need. For now, though, let's get started by downloading the first thing we need. It's VirtualBox. Go to this website, virtualbox.org, and you will be able to get VirtualBox, which is a PC emulator. You can actually use any piece of virtualization software, but I recommend VirtualBox because it's free, it works really well, and PhysioMIMI is designed to use it, so it's a good idea to stick with. When you go to the VirtualBox website, you can go to the Download section, and you can choose the version of VirtualBox that's appropriate for your computer. For me, I'm using Mac OS X. I have an Intel processor, so the version for my operating system is the one that I would choose. You can go ahead and click this link. The file will start to download, and then once it's ready, you can install it. I'm actually going to skip ahead because I have already downloaded a copy, and in fact, that's what I'm going to open now. So let's see here. Let's get that installed. I'm running the installer for VirtualBox. When it opens up on Mac OS X, you can just run this, and then we'll go through the installer together here. The procedure is nearly the same for for Windows, except you run an exe and then you have a different installer. On Linux too, if you're running something normal like Ubuntu, you can use apt-get or sudo apt-get install, and then you can type in the name, which is virtualbox-ose. So for now, I'll go ahead and type this in. And I am installing VirtualBox. This doesn't take very long, so we'll wait for that to finish. While we're waiting, there's also an extension pack for VirtualBox. It's nice to have, but you don't need it for the PhysioMIMI virtual machine, so don't worry about that if you don't need to. That's something else that you can download from the VirtualBox website. Okay, good. The installation is finished, so I'll close that. And I'm going to close the VirtualBox window. And now the next thing we need to get is a copy of PhysioMIMI itself. We go to the PhysioMIMI website again, physiomimi.case.edu. We go to the Resources tab, and when you get here you'll see that there's a license you need to agree to. It's the standard Creative Commons license. So you'll need to create an account for the wiki if you haven't already done so. I already have an account, so I'll use mine. And I'll go ahead and log in. Now that I've logged in, I can view the list of downloads. And here we see this is what we want. It's the PhysioMIMI virtual machine image. So I'll download that. I'm not actually going to download it now because I have a copy saved. But as you can see, it would download if you were going to use it. So I'll cancel that, and instead, I will use the copy that I have saved. Okay, so what we need to do next is to open up VirtualBox, and we can begin to import PhysioMIMI. So you can see here I'm running VirtualBox. In just a minute it should appear. Perfect. That's a little big for the screen. There we go. Okay, so this is VirtualBox. In here I can tell it that I want to use the PhysioMIMI image. So I'm going to go to the File menu. I'm going to say Import Appliance, and then I'm going to tell it that I'm interested in the image that I downloaded earlier. So I hit Choose and look on my desktop because that's where I saved it. And now I'm selecting this PhysioMIMI image. It's got an OVA file extension, so that'll be the one that you'll want to use. And now you can't see it, but I'm hitting Continue. Whoops. Maybe in a moment I'll hit Continue. Okay, there we go. Right? Oh, whoops. There we go. Now I can hit Continue. I'm presented with a list of options. These are all the settings of the virtual machine. You don't have to worry about changing these. If you have less than 2 gigs of RAM, then you could lower this. I wouldn't go lower than something like 1536 or 1024, but really try not to go lower than 1536. But for most purposes, you won't need to worry, so don't worry about that. Now in in VirtualBox, I'm going to hit the import button, which is down at the bottom. You can't see it, but I'm hitting the import button, and now I just wait a little bit while this virtual machine gets imported. Okay, so we have some time to kill while we wait. What's happening here is the virtual machine emulator, VirtualBox, gives us a virtual machine. It gives us an environment where we can run virtual machines. Now, PhysioMIMI uses that because it's got a lot of components. It's got a web server, an email server, a database server. It's got a bunch of different parts that need to be configured to work correctly. When we could just give this to you as a bundle of code, but that would take a long time to get set up, and it would be error prone. So instead, we give you this nice virtual machine. You can run everything from here. It makes it very simple and very easy to use. Okay, we're nearly done here importing this virtual machine, which is good, because that means in just a moment we can move on. Perfect, and we can actually run it. Believe it or not, at this point we're done installing PhysioMIMI. So now that it's finished installing, we can move on and we can begin to use it. So here in VirtualBox, I'm going to select PhysioMIMI. I'm going to hit Start, and I'm going to say yes, VirtualBox, you can go ahead and run it. This is actually going to start a virtual machine. It looks just like a regular PC booting up because as far as the computer is concerned, it is. This is just telling me that I have mouse support. I don't care about that. So we have to wait a minute. There's nothing I can do in here. When this is all done, it's going to give us a plain, boring window with nothing in it. You don't actually use PhysioMIMI inside of this VirtualBox window. Instead, you do everything through a web browser. So when you download this and install it, you would start up the virtual machine, and then you would minimize it and not use it again. Perfect. So here we are. We're looking at the boring console here. I'm going to minimize this. We don't care about it. Instead, we want to use the web browser. So now that that's started, now that we've got the virtual machine running, we can begin to do something. Before we log into PhysioMIMI itself, we can edit its configuration. In fact, we have to, because we've got to set up a username and a password and things like that inside of PhysioMIMI. We do all of that by going to the address for the configuration system. It's called webmin, and it's running inside of that virtual machine. So here we go. I'm going to say, go to this address. Notice that it's https:// Make sure you've got the S. It'll fail otherwise. Then I'm saying localhost : 12321. That is the port on which webmin listens. And here we go. I'm being asked to log in. The default username is pmconfig. The default password is the word password. So we'll be sure to change that. So here we are. We're looking at the webmin interface here for the virtual machine. If I go to change passwords, I can change the password for webmin. I'm not going to do that now. Instead, I'm going to focus here on the PhysioMIMI administrator account. Here's where I can make the settings that will come into play later. So I'm going to fill this out. I'm affiliated with Case Western Reserve University. My city is Cleveland. I'm from Ohio. My zip is 44106. And I'm going to make up a fake account. I'll call it PMAdmin for PhysioMIMI admin. And I'll make up a fake email address, admin@localhost. When you do this for real, you really will need a real email address. PhysioMIMI uses mail quite a bit. If you are going to have other users log in other than you, you need to be notified that they're creating an account because you have to manually approve them before they can gain access. So that's one reason why you need a real email address there. Okay, so I filled out this form for the PhysioMIMI administrator account. I hit save. The changes take just like that. Perfect. So I go back to the index and I can make other changes here. I'll go through quickly and I'll look at some of these other things that we can do. The PhysioMIMI site name is important. When here in this example for this video, we're going to do everything on localhost, but you might want to deploy PhysioMIMI on a server so that everyone, well not everyone, but so that other people can get to it. And if that's the case, the name localhost certainly won't cut it. And also, if that is the case, you'll probably want the default port of 80. So if you do an advanced configuration where you have PhysioMIMI running on a public server, you would change this part, the localhost part, to whatever the name of that server is. I've given some examples here You just use whatever would be appropriate. The point is that you only really need to worry about this if you're going to make PhysioMIMI accessible to other users. But if you're just going to use it on your own computer, you can leave this alone. Anyway, once you've made the change, you can hit save, and then you have to wait a little bit for that change to take. I'm not going to hit that now, though, because I don't want to change that. Oh, also, I'll point out I went up here to the System button. When I hit this, it returns me to the index, which is useful. One thing that you always need to do, though, is to make a new PhysioMIMI SSL certificate. PhysioMIMI SSL certificate, there you go. We do this because we want our traffic to be encrypted. That's especially important if we have people coming in on other computers. And by default, it won't handle encryption properly until you make one. Okay, so I'll say my country is US, my state is Ohio, my city is Cleveland, my institution is Case Western Reserve University. Okay, and for now I'll leave this as localhost, but if I were really going to deploy this, I would need a better name. So I hit the button to regenerate the certificate. This is actually doing a lot of work underneath the hood, so it's important that I wait now. This takes maybe 30 seconds or so, but it's doing quite a bit in order to make that happen. So once this is done, we can look at the PhysioMIMI mail settings. That's important in order to send mail, and also it needs to be. It's running an entire mail server underneath all the stuff that we see here. So we actually need to make sure that's configured correctly. The mail server itself is called postfix. That's where we configure it. One thing I want to do first, though, is I want to set up the system mailer for PhysioMIMI. This is the address that will be used on outgoing messages. I'll set it to admin at localhost. If you don't set this correctly, or if you leave it at its default setting, there's a chance that people may not receive mail because whatever mail server you have might reject it. These mail settings are really pesky. It's annoying and it's difficult to get mail set right. A lot of institutions like to block outgoing mail. Another thing we have to worry about here on the postfix mail server, I'll open it up and I'll go to the general options. Another thing we have to worry about is the means of sending outgoing mail. If you have an SMTP server, you probably do. It's probably called smtp.company.com, where company is the name of your company. You probably want to set that so that your mail will get sent through your company's server. If you don't set this, then PhysioMIMI will have a very hard time sending mail out. It'll almost certainly fail, so make sure you've got that set correctly. That's all there is to do for the PhysioMIMI configuration. At this point, we're ready to log in, so let's do that. I'll open a new window, and I'm going to type in the address of PhysioMIMI, https://localhost, and then :port 8081. This is just the default, though. You can change that to anything else. First time I come in, it warns me. It says the connection is untrusted. I add the security exception, and now I wait just a minute because the first time we log in after making all these changes, PhysioMIMI needs to cache a few settings. And then once we come in, we can log in and we can start using PhysioMIMI, which is very, very nice. So we wait just a little bit longer. Perfect. Okay, here we are at PhysioMIMI. I use my username. I use my password. I hit sign in, and here I am. I'm inside of PhysioMIMI. Well, that's it. I hope you like this. Hopefully you see how easy it is to get PhysioMIMI installed. It only takes about 12 or 13 minutes to get the whole thing going. Look for the other videos at physiomimi.case.edu. You'll find plenty of information here. Be sure to hit up our Google group, which is also listed on this page for more information. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good day.